Good evening, everyone. My name's Mark Alan Lovewell. I'm a folk singer from the island of Martha's Vineyard. Welcome to my show. I'm a little bit concerned tonight. Yeah, for a lot of reasons, but the most one is that I'm not sure I'm getting the sound that I want. So I got to make sure you're close. And please comment. Please jump in. Say hello. So, please let me know if you can hear me. I'm having some troubles getting sound up here, and I want to just make sure. Can you folks hear me? Oh, good, good. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I need comment because I see Molly's there, and so Molly, it's just the green light is not showing as brightly as I wanted it to. But anyway, so I'm so glad you could all join with me. I'm sorry I'm late. It's obvious. Molly's not here tonight. So I'm doing everything alone. Which can be done. For those of you who are wondering where Molly is, she's in Florida. She's on a very important trip, and she's commenting on the show. She's sharing. She's with friends. She's with friends and family in Florida, and when she's here next weekend, I'll let her tell you. Let's see, I gotta find my capo. It's an important trip for her, and so there it is. We want to make sure that she needs to do what she needs to do, so that when she's back here, we can concentrate on our stuff, on the usual stuff that we do. I have a very important show for you tonight. A really good show for you, and I hope you can stick it out with me because we got stuff to do. I got poetry for you. I got song, stories. Shenandoah, I love your daughter, far away, rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, how not to see her. I'm bound away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. Far away, rolling river. Far away, rolling river. I'm bound away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, I love your daughter, far away, rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, well, I not deceive her. Bound away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, she'll not have me, far away, rolling river. She says I'm a dirty sailor. I'm bound away, I'm bound away, across the wide So I bet that's a verse you've never heard before. They don't play that very often, but it's there. Shenandoah is a sea shanty. It's a song. It's a song that was sung by sailors years ago. Years and years and years ago. It was a sea shanty. And it traveled the world, this song. So, anyway, let's get on with this. This morning, we did a show. I did a show at a shell midden, a bay scallop shell midden in Edgartown. And I got such an incredible response from so many people. It resonated with a lot of folks. And bay scallops are huge. Bay scallops is a big deal. Bay scalloping is a big deal. for the communities of Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, parts of Cape Cod, and Long Island. Now, you go back 100 years, and it was far more prevalent. Bay scalloping was a big deal. It was a big deal, bigger deal than it is today. Today, it's in nooks and crannies. It's not... In fact, on Martha's Vineyard, you can only get bay scallops in mostly Eggertown and Chilmark and a Gay Head. And Vineyard Haven, we have a scarce supply. It's not that people aren't trying to help the bay scallops. They're just an incredibly fragile shellfish. They are like the canaries in the coal mine. They're the first to go when the water quality in a coastal pond goes, when the eelgrass stops growing, when algae blooms come in. And so bay scallops are far more precious today than they were. Not because of their people love them, but because they're scarce. And those who do love them recognize that. Now, I was just Googling around. I was Googling around the web, and believe me, if you want to have some bay scallops for dinner, you got to empty your wallet. You probably have to empty your savings. The price of bay scallops coming out of New York, and they're promoting them as Nantucket bay scallops, is over $80 a pound. That's about 30 little bay scallops. So, I want to share with you a story about bay scallops, because like so many other things that we treasure, we got to take care of them. Now, here's a book I'm going to wave at you. Look at this. You see this book right here? I'm going to read the title of it. It's called Stalking the Blue-Eyed Scallop by Euell Gibbons. And some of you will remember Euell Gibbons as a great writer, and he wrote about all kinds of cooking. And this is a very thick book about eating seafood. And anyone who loves seafood will value this book. However, I'm going to say this to you right up front, is that this book only touches on the blue-eyed bay scallop. There's only 3 pages in the book. There's only 3 pages. 3 pages. I'm going to tell you more tonight about bay scallops than you could find in this book. The beauty of this book, the title, Stalking the Blue-Eyed Scallop, is that rings with you, and that rang with them when they put the book out. But there are only 3 pages in the book that talk about the bay scallop. The bay scallop is an amazing creature, amazing creature. I have here. This is a bay scallop shucking knife. This is a knife you use for opening bay scallops. Not to be confused with the one you use for opening the oyster. This is an oyster knife, and not to be confused with the one that opens an oyster. You can open an oyster and a clam. You can open a clam with this fellow. But anyhow, so bay scallops, they live for 2 years, and they live in our coastal waters. And they only live for 2 years. A quahog can live for almost 10, 15 years. But a bay scallop lives for only 2 years. He's got to do all of his business from being a little seedling all the way to adulthood in 2 years, and then he dies. And that's the natural progression for this wonderful animal. And so scallopers, and going back to the Native Americans, the history of this island, the history of this region, is that bay scallops were a precious commodity back then. And people would wait to harvest them on the fall and the autumn before they died. They would die the following year. So they'd have they'd have 18 months to grow to full-fledged adulthood, where they would be harvested in the waters, coastal waters. Now, don't be confused with sea scallops. Sea scallops are an entirely different animal. There's a lot of similarities, but they're not the same. Sea scallops are in the open ocean. They grow all around. In the open ocean, deep water, and they live for a long time. They don't come anywhere near as tasty as a bay scallop. And if I would ask you to Google after this show, go Google bay scallops. There's so much to be said about them. Bay scallops are the only shellfish in the ocean that have eyes, that can see. And that's where you get the name of the book called Stalking the Blue-Eyed Scallop, because they have blue eyes. And if you look around, look at photographs of them, they have eyes all around them. They can see harm. They can see things that are scary to them, and they'll hop and jump around the bottom to stay out of trouble. That's how interesting bay scallops are. So the fishermen harvest bay scallops in the fall, and there's such an incredible amount of effort to try and protect and preserve these creatures. There are shellfish hatcheries, there's all kinds of efforts to try and raise bay scallops because they're precious, they're so precious. And man is trying to intervene because we're losing water quality, we're losing the site where bay scallops spawn. And because they're only alive for 2 years, they're not something like you can cultivate them and have them. They're just like they're like kale in your garden. They're like so many things you grow in your backyard that are only here for a short time and then they go. So you got to make sure that they're well seeded. Make sure that you're raising little ones and bay scallops. Now, here's the interesting news for bay scallopers who love them, is that in the effort to try and preserve them, there are all kinds of restrictions. Shellfish constables put restrictions up. You can only have so many people. You can only have so much that you can land on a day. And this morning when I showed you that hill, that small hill of shells, I was showing you the product of all of that effort and work by the shellfish constables and people together to try and make sure there's a healthy crop. Make sure that there's plenty. That pile that I showed you was not much more than a month old. I think Sharon was the one who wrote me and said, well, how long has that pile been there? That pile's only been there a month, because the shellfish season, for the harvesting season for bay scallops, started October 1st. Recreational and commercial, there are different times of the month that they open it. And so when I was there in September, the pile of bay scallop shells that was there, you could have probably put in 4 barrels. 4 barrels. Just 4 barrels. They were left over from the previous year, and people would help themselves all year round to collect their shells and take them home and do whatever they wanted, because the shells can be used for all kinds of purposes, as you know, as many of you know. So that heap, that midden that I shared with you folks this morning, smells putrid, smells of sea, smells of rotting seafood. All those shells were just a month old. And in the weeks ahead, that pile will continue to grow, and it'll grow past Thanksgiving, and it'll grow into December, and hopefully, if there are enough bay scallops in the ocean, that in the coastal ponds, that pile will continue to grow. Now, down the street from where I live, there's another little midden, but it's little, because in Vineyard Haven, we're not doing so well. We don't have a happy bay scallop fishery as they do in Edgartown. And Oak Bluffs is still struggling too. Now, Chilmark does pretty well. They're doing all right, but there'll be a fisherman who will complain about there's not enough in Chilmark either and whatever. So, but it's a balance to try and figure out how to how to steward this fishery that is so fragile. You try and harvest all of the adults in this winter, knowing that the little ones, the ones that are only months old, will be adults the following year. So you have to be careful. There's a little dance there. And I love sharing that story because it's a real warm your heart kind of a story about how important, how much we treasure the bay scallop fishery. I want to read a poem to you, because the bay scallop is a big part of who I am, defines me. It's a big part of who I am. It's a big part of this community. Everybody works so hard in the summertime to make their money doing all the things that they do, whether it's growing or in the tourist economy or whatever. In the fall, the only economic engine for this community used to be the bay scallop. That's how you made money. In my first year living here in the late 1970s, I worked as in a shucking shed. It was one of my winter jobs to try and pay the bills. I was opening scallops. Anyway, I have a poem here just called Bay Scallops. And it reflects, I just have to say, it reflects because poetry is important to all of us. Poetry matters. It's a tribute to the so many people, and their names are in the story, that I went bay scalloping with. I went out as a journalist, interviewing them, writing about them. I went out as their friend. I went out there to get a mess, what we call a small amount of bay scallops. And there are quite a few people that I've been bay scalloping with, but this is just a couple of them. And to pay tribute to them. And they're not here anymore. They've all moved on. In the coldest thoughts of the season, I think of my waterfront friends, the bay scallopers. These are the fishermen dressed for winter in October and November. I think of these fine men and a few women who go out before the morning sun is up. They fish. They fished. They pulled their drags along the bottom in the company of friends and others. It is a lifetime of thoughts all wrapped into just 2 or 3 months at the end of the year. Some fish longer, from October to March. I think of Beanie Alley, standing at the culling board with his cigar held between his lips in a chilly northerly breeze in Lagoon Pond. I think of Donald Poole of Menemsha. He'd have his smoking pipe later. He carried the smell of tobacco with him. Most remember Donald's son Everett, who ran that fish market. Everyone went to Everett's place, Poole's Fish, to get the freshest fish and shellfish, and of course, Donald's fresh, shucked scallops. I think of Dick Hathaway, who fished at an age when most Edgartown elders start their morning with coffee in a cup, and each rides a slow rocking chair. Dick started his morning rocking in a skiff with his coffee thermos steaming. I think of Richie Medeiros, a great bay scalloper, a greater Oak Bluffs shellfish warden, whose life was taken in an October boating accident, a short couple 100 yards below the East Chop Lighthouse. None of these men are here today. Still, their memory resides in me as though each day they tie up their boats at the dock next to mine. You don't let go of these memories, though we have to let the men go. They've left, gone to another watery place. I think of the sea, the shell, and them. What a precious jewel in each fragile shell. This bivalve will crush under the heel of a foot, and it only takes a tender hand and a shucking knife to open. I hope you like that. I hope that that resonates. There's so many people. If you're a member of the vineyard community, you'll recognize so many of the people that I just mentioned. They're all wonderful, wonderful treasure people. All right, so this is a song called the Bay Scalloping Song. After a long, bitter cold day on the water, I'm at the bar with a glass of bubbly ale. Sharing salty tales with a few of my friends. A bartender hands me a large bay scallop shell. This shell, I said, is a big part of our way. Warms a chilly night and a snowy day. Cold waters around us are now so clear. Bay scalloping was a livelihood for most of us here. Mackerel clouds overhead are moving on. We'd call it a sail of sky, and the wind lightens, flattening the water. Following tide. You could taste the salt waves and the fresh autumn air. Watch the gulls drop the shells from way up there. Haul our drags, feel the rope tighten. Hear our Evinrude go slow. We'll try a better place where the eelgrass grows. In the shucking shack, Susie's empty shells are piled way up high. No one matches her rhythm, her wit, and her welcome smile. She's the fastest cutter everyone knows. No one can match the speed that her shucking knife goes. Mackerel clouds overhead are moving on. We call it a sailor's sky, and the wind lightens, flattening the water, bringing the following tide. One more verse. Oscar a scalloper, there's none like him today. He fished in a catboat Vanity following the old-timers' way, pulling drags on the bottom, culling with his bare hands. Even in a wintry wind, he was a warm-hearted fisherman. Well, the bartender, he took the shell back into his palm, and he turns to the crowd. We're all sitting there, so calm. He said, you heard it from someone who can tell a tale of this old coastal town. You know he did it while holding one shell. Mackerel clouds overhead are moving on. We call it a sailor's sky, and the wind lightens, flattening the water, bringing a following, bringing a following, bringing a following tide. I just have to show it. So that song is on the CD that Molly and I did last spring, and it's a CD called Home with Molly and Mark, and we got all kinds of very, very maritime songs in this, and I wrote this song, the bass scalloping song. It has a long story behind it, but I've already told it to many of you, and I told it in my newsletter. If you get my newsletter, you already know I wrote about it, but somebody's got to write a song about bass scallops. They're so precious. They are so... If you've ever eaten a bass scallop, you'll never forget it. It is the most tasty, most delicious seafood item. If they're charging $80 a pound, and they're getting it to ship it, you know that it's precious. And we know it's scarce, but we know that even being scarce, it's still precious. More precious. So, anyway, that's my story about bass scallops. And I got other things I want to talk to you about. First of all, let me have... Is everybody all over there? I'm looking over there and seeing some comments. We got comments. Is everybody all right? Let me just go over and look there. I don't have Molly here to look, so I'm kind of going to look myself. I want to see if we got... Is everybody happy over here? Oh my God, we got a few in there. We got, oh my God, yeah, we got some happiness out there. Good. I can't see the computer screen very closely, very well. So I have to check you out, see how you folks are doing, to know whether this show is still doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay. All right. So we got things to talk about. Let's talk about this. We'll have more news about this coming along, but we alluded to this last week, and I want to say it's official. Sunday at Sea, the program you're watching right now, the program you're enjoying right now, is now available as a podcast. And we have someone very special we have to thank for that. And his name is Brad Wortman. And we mentioned his name. I'm going to bring this right up to you. I want you to take note of this. Do you see that? Fisher Poetry Podcast. Google that. If you look at the top of this, you'll see all kinds of links. Internet links, which you can't possibly get from me on this show visually, but we will send it. We'll send it to you. Just Google the Fisher Poetry Podcast. Brad Wortman is a wonderful man. In fact, his last name is Wartman. You can Google him. Just Google his name. And when you go to YouTube, Google his name because he puts so many wonderful Fisher poets online so that they can have an audience. And he's celebrated in Oregon. And I know him. And we have shared smiles together. We've shared time together. He's run video of me, audio of me. He's done all kinds of things. So this is a big deal for this show because we have fans and followers on the East Coast. We have fans and followers on the West Coast and in between. We got some in Chicago. We got down Alabama. We got Arizona. Anyhow, but the most important thing is we have to honor the fishermen. And Brad helps us. Brad helps us this. The Fisher Poetry Podcast. And what he's doing so far, and we just started this in the last couple of weeks. What he's doing is he's taking the audio from this show and he's doing magic, unbelievable magic to it, so that it's possible for you and your friends. It's not so important to you, but it's your friends because you're watching this live. It's your friends could drive to work and listen to it as a podcast on Spotify. I'm not kidding. You go Google. He's got, and it's also on Google too. He's actually. I was listening to it today. Just Google Fisher Poetry Podcast, and in no time at all, you might even be able to Google my name and Molly's name, and come up with links, because Brad is he's just all fired up. He's got coal in his furnace. He's got his ship all fired up, and he's moving forward. And this show that I'm putting together, I hope it's good enough, because we are missing that other important part of the show, and that's Molly. But the most important thing we need to say is that we're moving. This ship, this vessel is moving forward, and it's all fun, and it's all about joy, and it's all about celebrating and enjoying the community that we have, and so it's really a treat to share this news with you. And next Sunday, when Molly's here, we'll even have more news to share with you, because Brad's working on things, and the people who put together my website are going to be working on it as well. We've got some exciting things coming ahead. So it's driven by you. I'm pointing at you, because your enthusiasm for showing up every Sunday night is helping to fire up the show, and it's spreading. And I'm talking Oregon. There are some wonderful people out there. They're dearest of friends out there. Joanne Rideout, we've got friends out there. We got so many sweetheart friends out there on the West Coast, because hey, that's Columbia River, that's Pacific Ocean. There's a lot of fishing out there. There's a lot of stories out there. And we all share in this fellowship with here on the East Coast. So anyway, I just think it's incredibly wonderful news to be able to share with you. I just want to toast to Brad, shout out to Brad, toast to all our friends on both sides of the coast. I'm not drinking ginger beer. It's cold outside, so I'm drinking coffee. I know, shame on me drinking coffee this late, but I love it. Here's to you, all of you. Come on, young sailorman, listen to me. I'll sing you a song of the fish of the sea. Blowing winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern so if somebody, Brad, if you're online, you could even put the link on the comments. But we'll make sure that the comments will reflect how you can listen to the show. Well, up comes the whale, the biggest of all. He went up aloft and let all the sails fall. Blowing winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern the bluefish, he's a wagging his tail. He flips and he flops and says, time to make sail. Blowing winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she'll go. Now up comes the mackerel with his striped back. He stands on the deck and says, my name is Jack. Blow you winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she goes. Now up comes the flatfish, and we call him Skate. If you'll be the captain, I'll be the mate. Blow you winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she goes. Comes the swordfish, he's the king of the sea. We're coming about, boys, so heartily. Blowing winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she the codfish with his chuckle head. He's out on the chains, heaving the lead. Blowing winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she goes. Now up comes the flounder, he's fresh from the ground. It's mind your mind, chucklehead, mind how you sound. Blow you winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she goes. One more verse. Well, up comes the fisherman. He's stalwart and grim. He dips his big net in and scoops them all in. Blowing winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she goes. Blowing winds westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she goes. Well, I met a young gal from Frisco town. My heart was not my own. We kissed when we parted. My money and watch was gone. As I was a-walking down the street, the people said to me, now there goes a brave young whaler man who's off to sea once more. Once more, we're off to sea once more. Now there goes a brave young whalerman who's off to sea once more. Well, a boarding master picked me up. His name was Shanghai Brown. I asked for him to take me in, but he looked at me with a frown. The last time that I paid you off, you chalked me no more score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance. I'll send you to sea once more. Once more, we're off to sea once more. Well, they shipped me aboard a whaling ship bound for the Arctic Sea. Where the cold wind blows, there's ice and snow. Jamaica rum would freeze. Oh, I can't stay here, I have no gear. I spent all my money ashore. 'Twas then that I wished that I was dead, then go to sea once more. Once more, we're off to sea once more. 'Twas then that I wished that I was dead, then go to sea once more. Well, sometimes we got sperm whales and sometimes we got none. With a long oar stuck to our hand, we rowed all day long. And when night it came all along, we slept upon our oar. Oh, your back is weak, you shall not seek a berth at sea once more. Once more, we're off to sea once more. Oh, your back is weak, you shall not seek a berth at sea once more. So come all you brave young whalermen and listen to my song. When you go on those long whaling trips, I'll tell you what goes wrong. Take my advice, don't drink strong drink or travel along the shore. But get married, me lads, and spend your nights in and go to sea no more. Once more, we're off to sea once more. But get married, me lads, and spend your nights in and go to sea no more. No more, we're off to sea no more. But get married, me lads, and spend your nights in and go to sea no more. Oh, so how are we doing, everybody? Everybody all right? How are we doing on time? Oh my God, look at us. We've had a long show. Look at us. Thank you for being with me tonight. Thank you for coming aboard. Thank you for sharing with us. It's astounding to me, some of the news that I've already shared with you earlier in the show about the community that we have out around us. One of the big events of this week for me, and some of you will resonate very strongly with you, is that I had my boat hauled out. She's on the hard. Yep, my boat is out of the water. She's on the hard. I wish I could say to you she's home. Well, you could say that if you wanted to think in terms of the severe weather we get during the winter time. She's safe on the land, highly elevated on the land, so there'll be no big ocean storms being a threat to her. But I have to say that in my heart, I think that my boat is at home when she's in the water. And I'm looking forward to, like you are, to better weather, warmer weather ahead
So here's the invitation. Spend some time with me this winter. Let's have some fun. Let's have some creative fun. Let's exchange comments and thoughts. You participate, share in your stories with me. And obviously Molly will be here next week. And Molly will be here through the winter with me. And we're going to be making some noise and we're going to be telling some stories. And we want you to be involved. I want to thank the people who are Patreon supporters because they write the check. They make the engine move. They pay for this show. And it's a real show. It's a real show. We've got expenses, we've got things. We've got some nice people involved who volunteer and do all kinds of cool things. And it's bigger than any one of us by ourselves. It's bigger than any one of us by ourselves. It's as big as... It wraps the coast together so that you could watch the sunrise and know that one of your buddies is also watching the sunrise. Watch the sunset. And I didn't even mention the lunar eclipse this week. I know some of you watched it like I did, and you've seen some of the pictures I took for the Vineyard Gazette. And if you go out tonight and you look into the east, you're going to see Mars rising in the east, brighter than it's been in years. So it's bigger than any one of us. It's so big. This show touches so many people that I haven't seen in a while. Some I haven't even seen. Some of the comments I got today, Candace, who said that she was going to be shucking scallops watching this show tonight. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. You folks are awesome. And please promise me that when Molly shows up next week, you give her a good hello. All on man, the capstan, see the cave. I think you lost the video. You're not seeing video. But anyhow, the song still is alive and well. Many thousand miles behind us. Many thousand miles. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being with me.